Richard Tice, MP for Reform, of course, who was in the Houses of Parliament yesterday, House of Commons yesterday. He had a question for the Foreign Secretary, David Lammy.
The Secretary of State has referred to the many displaced Syrians looking to return to Syria for opportunities and risks. Will the government be providing assistance to those Syrians in this country who do wish to return to the homeland? And will the government look to follow the example of European nations like Germany, who have suspended asylum applications?
I have to say that has not been put to me in the last few hours. The issue that's been put to me is the humanitarian need in country, the humanitarian support for neighbours.
Yeah, so poor old David Lammy's obviously out of the loop. Because he wasn't told that, in fact, the government was considering suspending all asylum-seeking cases involving people from Syria, because 10 minutes after he said that, here's Yvette Cooper.
Like Germany, like France and like other countries, we have paused asylum decisions on cases from Syria while the Home Office reviews and monitors the current situation.
Check your phone, Dave. Dave, check your phone, mate. He was quite indignant when he was asked that question, because unbelievably, people will be asking this question: why are we giving £11 million worth of aid to Syria to help them with their problem in Syria, where, as far as David Lammy's concerned, we're not stopping the asylum claims that are made here? But, of course, now we are stopping them, because there's now a risk from jihadists returning to Britain, having gone there to help fight Assad, or to help fight for Assad, whatever it is. It seems to me to be a right old mess, and nobody seems to know who's running the government anymore.
The ever-statesman-like David Lammy,
yes.
Foreign Secretary.
Yes.
A towering presence on the world diplomatic stage.
Yeah, comical Lammy, I call him.
Yeah.
I mean, he should be... You would think... Here's the thing that I think is a bit odd. Yesterday, we see Keir Starmer swanning around in the UAE. He visits some big mosque, stands alone. He doesn't look like Princess Diana, I can tell you that. It's not working for him. He then goes and shakes hands with Mohammed bin Salman, who, with the best will in the world, is considered to be a pretty brutal dictator who could be responsible for the deaths of, several hundred people. But that's OK with him, because he's doing it for Britain, right? But why is David Lammy not with him? He's the Foreign Secretary.
I've got a theory on Starmer and all his travelling, because he's been everywhere, hasn't he?
Yeah.
He's earned more in air miles in the last 5 months than most people earn in pound notes.
Yeah.
He's travelling
nearly 20 trips now.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
I think on each of these trips, he nips away from his officials and he goes to the local high street and he looks at estate agents' windows. Yeah. Because I'm thinking that he's figuring out where him and his family are going to live after he's completely trashed this country.
Yeah.
So he won't even want to live here himself.
No.
So I reckon everywhere he goes and he writes down a little bit, oh yeah, we could afford that one. Or
well, surely he's going to talk to his mate Lord Ali, isn't he? Lord Ali will sort him out with a property.
Yeah, that's as well as suits and glasses.
Yeah,
of course,
well, I mean, he's got the penthouse already that he can use. He's got the house down in Kent that he can make use of. He's got a place in New York if he wants to pop over there, But, it is quite a serious story, this, because about a dozen hardened Islamic State fighters from the UK are currently being held in prisons in northern Syria, which are controlled by Kurdish forces. Now, the prospect of them being released from these jails is pretty frightening, because they can probably make their way here without much difficulty.
This is a very, very serious story, as you rightly point out, and this is where our government's presence, ability and knowledge of global events is going to come to the fore.
Right.
My fear for the people of Syria would be careful what you wish for.
Yes.
Because there is not going to be some steady, easy transition into a democratic society with the freedoms that we enjoy.
No, exactly right. These are jihadists that have taken over, let's not forget. And they say now that they no longer want to destroy Israel and everything about it, but they still want to have a jihadist revolution and run an Islamic state, effectively.
Exactly. And those tens of thousands of prisoners, which are now being guarded in that, including Shamima Begum, for example, that are being guarded by 900 US troops, as well as Kurdish troops. Yeah. What's going to happen if Donald Trump decides to withdraw the 900 US soldiers, if the Kurdish troops then feel they are not able or willing to guard these some 50,000 prisoners, I hear, all of whom have been rampant jihadists, albeit of a different strain, shall I say, then what is going to happen? Will this indeed turn out to be very bad news for the UK and Europe, because will many of those bloodthirsty monsters want to make their way to Europe to continue to wreak havoc?
Well, interestingly enough, some European countries have already taken the first step, because yesterday Yvette Cooper, as she said, in line with Austria and Germany, didn't start it, but sort of joined in and said, right, now we're going to stop all asylum claims. But also Austria has gone further than that, and they're preparing to deport Syrians who are already settled in the country of Austria. So I think we need to get very, very fast and very quick on this before it gets out of hand. Let's have a look at what Pat McFadden said yesterday. He said basically that he was going to look at the fact that Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, which is the name of the group who've taken over in Syria, are actually a prescribed terrorist group. He was going to say we might have to change our mind on that.
Hayat Tahrir al-Shams, known as HTS. It is a prescribed organisation here in the UK. Will you have to look at that again now?
Yeah, we will. And we'll consider that. And I think it will partly depend on what happens in terms of how that group behaves now. But I think countries around the world who prescribe this, I think probably will look at that now and see what's going to happen in the future. But we've not made any decisions on that over the weekend.
And how long will it take for you to make a decision?
Well, it won't take that long. I think we'll need to do it quite quickly.
Yeah, it didn't take long at all, because it turned out he was entirely wrong, Pat McFadden, who is the sort of de facto the Deputy Prime Minister. Angela Rayner had made such a rick of it on Sunday. They rolled him out on Monday to try and smooth it all over. But even he got it wrong, right? Because what he didn't know was that Keir Starmer had no intention of moving him off the banned list. Have a look at this.
You said it's very early days, but when it comes to removing HTS from that list, Pat McFadden says a decision could be made quickly. Did he speak out of turn there?
Well, no decision is pending at all on this. It is far too early at the moment.
So you've got the Prime Minister in Saudi Arabia, doesn't apparently talk to Pat McFadden, even though he's his de facto number 2. David Lammy doesn't talk to the Home Secretary, even though she sits just over there. What's going on? Who's running all this shambles?
It makes me chuckle.
Hayat Tahrir al-Shambles, you could call the Labour Party. I mean, I don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Do they?
No, but whenever there's any hint of uncomfortable questioning going to be asked by the media, they roll out the enforcer, don't they?
Yeah, that's right.
Dr. Death, Pat McFadden.
Yeah, right.
You know, and he
might frighten people of the Labour Party, it doesn't frighten me.
No, exactly.
You know.
And clearly...
He's the guy, by the way, let's not forget, who, when it became clear he couldn't claim his mortgage relief anymore from his expenses, he moved into the house next door and rented it so that he could claim the rent.
Yeah.
Nobody does that. I mean, I asked him about it. He wasn't happy, and he's never been back since.
They are people of such towering integrity, aren't they?
Oh, yeah.
They really are.
I worked entirely within the rules, is what he said to me.
Yeah.
Great, OK. He also acted like a complete shyster.
That run and represent the country, really.
Yeah.
I wouldn't trust them to look after my
on a
goldfish.
serious note, though, how is their communication so bad?
Yeah.
How does one person not know what the other person... Did they not have conversations behind closed doors?
How about perhaps they might not like each other very much because they're all competing?
Yeah.
Perhaps it's all one big contest.
Well, maybe so, but one guy is meant to be on top of all that, and that's the Prime Minister.
Indeed.
Right? So, presumably, he would have said yes if he'd answered the question directly, that Pat McFadden spoke out of turn. Because the idea that we would suddenly recognise a terrorist group because they've now had a sort of bloodless coup and they're running a country is ludicrous, isn't it?
The Prime Minister that is hardly ever in this country.
Yes. Well, I think he's going to Cyprus today.
Is he?
Yeah, believe so. I think he's going to do there.
Quite nice. Lovely.
It's quite nice this time of year.
Yeah, it is. Got a mate who lives out there.
Yeah, absolutely lovely. It is extraordinary, though, isn't it, that this is where we now are. Michael in North Staffordshire says, Mike, you're so right. Raise Syria. Let's lead the way and repatriate now. Cancel all asylum applications and lead the international scene, not follow it. It's called leadership. Zero foreign aid to give it to the pensioners. Well, this is the thing. You know, we give 11 million to Syria to help them with, recovery from Assad's madness, right? But Meanwhile, we want to be the world leader in net zero. That's what we keep hearing from Ed Miliband. But we don't want to be the world leader in stopping asylum-seeking claims from people who might do us harm.
I saw a bunch of people celebrating in central London last night, waving the flag of Syria, you know, the former flag, the one with the 3 stars.
Yeah, yeah.
3 red stars. And the guy that had organised that was interviewed by a member of the media, and he said, yeah, we all want to go home to our country and rebuild it. Well, fine, we can facilitate that, I'm sure.
A couple of big planes, couple of transporters at Bryce Norton, I would suggest.
Yeah, well, I don't know exactly how many Syrian asylum seekers there are now.
There's a couple of 100,000 in this country alone.
Yeah.
There's about 5 million who left Syria over the course of the last 10 years or so, thanks to Angela Merkel.
And I wish them well. I could understand people wanting to go back to their homeland, having that urge, that desire to get back to the country that you still love but couldn't live in. Go back. Good luck. But it's going to be a rocky road, and I hope that we have smart, forceful, clever politicians to deal with the fallout of it on behalf of our nation.
Yeah. And we should also, by the way, be incredibly careful about anyone who does try to come here from Syria.
Oh, my word.
Because we don't know. I mean, we're looking at pictures from all over the place here. Families looking for missing loved ones, finding bloody nooses, finding all sorts of instruments of torture in some of these prisons. You know, we don't want these torturers coming here. We don't want people who have been murdering dozens and dozens, maybe hundreds of people, suddenly, you know, running the library down Hackney Wick, do we?
Of course, and how many people from the former Assad regime may now rock up on our shores via a rubber boat saying we're persecuted, we can't live in the country we once ran because of course we're hated, so grant us asylum.
That's very much what happened in Rwanda, isn't it? We ended up having, I mean, I mentioned libraries because at the end of the day, I think it was either Lambeth Council who hired this guy who was a massive war criminal from Rwanda, and he was running the local library, sitting there, you know, absolutely happy as Larry.